Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Parenting. I am so excited this week because I am not doing this alone. I have a guest with me this week. Her name is Shruti Trivedi, and she's going to tell you all about herself. But our topic this week is why self-care isn't selfish. So we're looking at the key to emotionally healthy parenting, which I am so passionate about, and it's so amazing to find somebody who shares that passion with me. So, welcome to the show, Shruti. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, Tarryn, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you because, like you said, self-care is a topic very close to my heart, and I'm happy to share my journey and how I take care of myself with everyone because I believe it's extremely important.
I absolutely agree with you. And this episode comes like almost right on time. I'm in a group chat with some of my close friends, and just this week, my friend was saying that she feels like she's bottoming out, right? She feels like she's stressed, she's under pressure, there's a lot happening at work, there's a lot happening with the kids, there's a lot happening in marriage, and she's just feeling this pressure. And she was saying that in as much as she would love to go for counseling, she can't afford to because the kids need to go to soccer classes. They've just signed up soccer and they've just signed up this and they've just signed up that. And there's this financial responsibility and this financial responsibility. And then my one friend and I said to her, like, are you realizing that you're putting kids in, and soccer's great, we're not knocking it, but you're putting the kids in an extramural and you're taking away from yourself for something you actually need, right? Soccer is an auxiliary, it's fun, it's great, it's development. I get all of that. But when you're compromising your mental health, your kids are going to go to soccer, but they're going to have an angry mother. Your kids are going to go swimming, but they're not going to have a mom that spends time with them because you're so like thinly spread. And so when I got your email, I was like, oh, this is a great thing to record. Like, why didn't I think of it as an episode when this conversation with my friends were happening? So, yeah, I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited that we can talk about this. I'm excited that the hope here is that parents will begin to realize that looking after yourself is not selfish. It is actually a necessity. It is not a luxury in the least, because when the saying that you cannot pour from an empty cup is so true. When you're empty and you haven't taken care of you, my friend actually used the example of the oxygen mask on a plane, right?
I was going
So
to
if
use that.
if you can't breathe and your kids are breathing, who's gonna help them off the plane?
Yeah.
So definitely put that mask on. And so yeah, let's get into it. But before we do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to start your company, TulsiHeals? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I just before that, when you said about oxygen mask, I was going to give you the exact same examples. I'm so glad somebody else thought of it too. But yeah, so for me, I'm a transformation coach. Prior to coaching, I've been in IT operations for 13 plus years, working in IT. So as a project manager into different roles. And I realized when I was doing coaching that I was also coaching at my IT jobs. It was just not structured, but really enjoyed that and learned a lot of skills over there. So what brought me to coaching? Why am I a life coach today? Is something within my personal journey. So I am blessed with three beautiful children. My girls are 15 and 11, and my boy is 7 year old. So super blessed with that. However, I've also lost three babies, and
Hmm.
for me, that's been the most toughest chapter in my life. I think the worst pain I've ever felt. And how it comes to self-care, I did not take therapy or even consider therapy for 11 plus years. Uh,
Wow.
After my first daughter was born, I was expecting again in 2011, where at 9 weeks I was told there's no heartbeat, and I was given a pill to terminate the pregnancy. I still remember coming back home from that appointment and not really understanding. It was December 31st, 2011. We were actually going to announce that we are expecting. And that's what happened that same morning, that I was told to terminate and there's no heartbeat. So I just didn't know what to do. I took the pill,
Mm,
and after I passed a red blob, I had to flush it down. And I my hands were shivering flushing it down, but
mm,
again, I didn't know how to grieve for something I didn't even got to hold.
right.
I didn't even know whether it was a boy or a girl. And then you're also told by the society, I was 27 at that time, so you're also told by the society, like, oh, you're young, you already have one child, try again, right? Move on. And
That's
that's
so
what
insensitive. Oh my goodness.
I think, and I believed in that. So when I felt pain, I tried to subside it, and that's where in 2012 is where I started my IT journey. I was aggressively looking for jobs so that I could escape and avoid the pain that I was going through. I was blessed again in 2014 where I had my middle daughter. Even during that pregnancy, there was a lot of fear. I remember after my 9 weeks of appointment is where I had a sigh of relief, especially with the heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that appointment. I was crying and crying, and I'm unable to stop. And the doctor was surprised, and then she realized, oh, we had a loss at 9 weeks. So it was a milestone for me completing 9 weeks. Um, and things were going well. And in 2017, a couple of years later, I was expecting identical twin boys. And again, twins were something as a part of my family tradition. Like my father's side has a lot of, my grandfather was identical twins. And some of my cousins and my uncles are identical twins. So my family was super excited that I'm carrying the tradition, uh,
Mm,
my generation. There were a few complications, but we were overcoming those complications. And at 18 weeks, they were diagnosed with TTTS, which is twin to twin transfusion syndrome. And I was rushed to the Johns Hopkins Hospital to get a laser surgery done to balance the nutrition for both the babies. However, my water broke at 19 weeks. And yet again, I was told to terminate the pregnancy because there was a risk of my life. And this time I argued with the radiologist, like, what are the chances? And then he mentioned there are like 0.00001% chance of them
wow.
living. I said I would take that chance. And I was sent back home on full bed rest. I was making progress, which the radiologist was also surprised that I made it through. Like at 23 weeks, he said it's just one more week. And then even if they are delivered, they are viable inside because their lungs are developed.
Mm-hmm.
However, life had other plans. At 23 weeks, it was my eldest daughter's seventh birthday. She was really sad to see, like, Mama, you're on bed rest. You know what? I'm going to decorate your room and I'm going to cut my cake in your room. And she was in full preparation with my family members. That afternoon, I developed a fever. I went into labor and I delivered my boys. Um, and they lived for only 2 hours.
Oh man.
Um, and that just broke me apart. And but what did I do? I joined back work in a week because for
That
me,
was your coping mechanism.
escaping, like, I didn't want it to be thinking about anything because again, the society, I already had two children. You have to just leave the other two.
Man. So cold. I can't believe people actually say
Um,
that out loud
and
and think that it's okay.
yeah, and I think I would not blame the people as well. They are also trained in a certain way. So it's not they're insensitive. I think that's what the society has designed, that you just move on. Just move on. Things happen. It was never meant to be. Just carry on.
Yeah.
A year later, I was expecting again, and my son was born. So it was a very serene way of saying your two boys are back as one life. How peaceful it sounds, right?
Absolutely.
But I'm of course, I love my son, no doubt about it. But in 2019, in 2020, 2021, even during the pandemic, when there were so many other things going on, I was breaking inside. I didn't
Mm,
like it happening. I was rushing to the bathroom, crying and crying and crying in between meetings, in between important meetings where I had to present to a director my accomplishments. And I'm rushing to the bathroom and crying and then putting on some heavy makeup and coming outside and putting on a smile. I didn't realize what is wrong with me. And those dialogues that you have with your self, those internal dialogues are the worst, I would say. You talk to yourself like a villain, like, what's wrong, Shruti?
mm,
What's wrong with you? You're so stupid. Can't you just be happy with what you have? And, and I don't want to even you go on the cuss words that I have used on myself.
yeah.
And I think finally in 2022, my company was offering complimentary therapy sessions, and I just went with that with a very negative attitude. But I said, I'll try. And that's where my transformation began. And within a year, I was able to reframe my grief. And I realized that I went to therapy for my twins, and I realized that I've not even addressed the pain from 2011, where I that's what we did in sessions. We wrote down so many things. I remember one particular session where I had written down, I killed my babies, to saying I did everything to protect my babies was the transformation that happened with me. And that's what led me to do what I do today. I realized this is such a topic that's not talked about, unspoken, like shush, shush, hush, hush, cannot talk
Yeah,
about
very taboo.
us. And that's like my life mission as part of my business, that I want to advocate for mental health. I want to help other bereaving mothers to acknowledge, to allow themselves to feel and talk openly. And that just gives me more meaning and purpose to my own life. And that's why I'm a full-time mom or full-time coach now, just helping and helping the community.
That's amazing. As I was saying to you before we started recording, it sucks that we have to go through these horrible moments in life, but so often that lived experience becomes your purpose.
Yeah.
And my next question to you was going to be what made you specifically passionate about supporting working professionals, especially mothers? But you just answered that. But you said something so key in that you went from proclaiming that you are the one that hurt your babies to proclaiming that you did everything to save your babies. And that was a mindset shift,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like that's where that self-care comes in, that self-compassion, that self-empathy. So can you tell me when was the realization, when was that moment that you realized that self-care is not an option, it's a necessity?
It was during the therapy sessions when I was going and taking, like, when we were doing all these different types of uh, exercises. I took out the time, that 1 hour session for myself, and it was like a ranting session sometimes. And I'm like, I feel so light. And that's when my therapist is like, why don't you just start doing it more, like apart from the sessions, just take time for yourself, go for a coffee. And we were talking about these different options, and I'm like, no, I cannot go to a coffee or a movie by myself. I cannot leave my kids at home. I had in my like for almost 10 more than 10 years, I said no to happy hours, I said no to outside travel. I've rejected everything, like, no, I'm not leaving my kids and going out anywhere. I remember way back in 2013, I went for a late night movie with my friend after 10 p.m. And it was only my eldest daughter. And After I came back, I enjoyed the movie thoroughly. I had popcorn, enjoyed. When I was driving back home, I had so much guilt. Like, what kind of a mother I am? How did I leave
Oh
my
my.
child and when go for a movie? I think for me, the realization was just during those sessions, like when I started taking smaller steps, like, okay, I'll just start with a small coffee with a friend. And then I'm like, okay, it's not so bad. It's not like I'm leaving my children. I go with them some other time together. This is just my own time. So I started with very smaller things, like smaller,
Mm-hmm.
like a movie time at home, like not even going out. A movie time, like I'll just say, okay, today is my day. I want to watch this movie. So let's do takeout and let me have the so I think that's where I started taking some small steps, and I started feeling from within not I'm not complaining and I'm not being whiny all the time, because there's so much frustration inside of me
Yeah.
previously. Like I'm always complaining, I don't have this, I don't have that. And now I'm just becoming more and more calmer and patient. So it was a transition that I experienced and I observed within myself. But yeah, to answer your question, it started with very small steps, and then I realized that it is worth it.
So you speak about this feeling of guilt, right? You can't leave your children, you can't do that. And that's the thing about the topic of self-care, and guilt is often very synonymous with each other. There's always this topic of guilt around self-care. It's so common for parents, it's so common for busy parents, it's so common for parents, especially of younger children. Why do you think so many mothers, especially, struggle with this?
Because they go for perfection. I've
Mm,
learned over time, there is nothing as such as perfect parenting. I think as part of growing up, whatever we learn from our parents, we also try to just make it better for our kids. And we give them all the, sometimes it's also like what we didn't get, we try to give to our kids. And I think parenting itself is defined as you have to be the perfect parent. Like, you have to do
mm,
everything possible for them. And then when you strive for being perfect, you cannot, you will not have time for yourself, because you are doing everything. Like you also mentioned prior to this to the our conversation, like, you know going for soccer events, signing up for singing, for piano, for all these different activities for our kids. And we are just driving, and even home cooked meals and fresh meals, and not giving them leftovers, from there to taking them to shopping and getting them whatever they want. And I think with all of that, where do you have time for yourself then? You're just
right.
striving to be a perfect parent, be, and your child is not still not happy because they are getting everything on the platter. So they will still have something to complain. And then that guilt creeps in, like, oh, I missed that singing recital. Oh, I missed that. You will still have, but you will miss. So I think it's all about prioritizing. Like
Mm,
you prioritize, okay, these are the four things I can do for my kid. Also distributing with your spouse if you're able to. But if you have 10 things for your kids, say these are the four for sure I will do. The other six will have to wait, or will and or will not be able to do. Maybe this season, or maybe this spring, we'll have to take it in summer. But then you can craft out time for yourself. So I think it that guilt creeps in when you try to be the perfect parent. It took me a lot of time to realize that yeah, I was trying to be super perfect. And I have a fridge magnet that says super mom. And I think I
yeah,
was trying to, just like somebody had gifted me, and I'm like, oh, now somebody trusts me to be a super mom, I need to be a super mom. But I have only two hands. I don't have seven, 8 hands to do all the work. So, yeah, that's why the guilt creeps in, and heavily.
that makes a lot of sense. And even in saying that, you're talking about the busyness of every day, all the roles that you have to play, all the activities that the kids have to do, being a wife, being a mom for those who are married, being a single mom for those who are single moms. everybody has their different stories, but when many parents hear the phrase self-care, it feels unrealistic to them. What does practical self-care actually look like for busy parents? And I'm not talking about, oh, they got to take a shower today.
Self-care, I think it's the first step is even realizing that like the whole topic, right? Self-care is not being selfish. You have to absorb that within yourself. When you're taking time for yourself, I think you've been trained that if you're doing something, you're being selfish. So I think it's first embracing that this is the time for yourself, and you then explore like what you really want to do out of that time. It can be different for different people. It uh it started with me on just having a conversation with a friend, having a buddy where I can just vent out, a no filter buddy. I think that's a wonderful thing to have. At least have one buddy like that. And smaller things that I started doing, like just mindfulness. I think that was a huge one for me. um, just being mindful. It still takes a toll. Like it's very difficult to be mindful. Like even when I'm talking to you, there is some part of my head saying, the schools are closing early today, so in 1 hour I have to pick up my son, and then I have to cook lunch, and then I have to feed them. All that things are still running in the background, but sometimes it overpowers and you're not able to be mindful. So right now, I need to have this conversation with you. I think being mindful is so important, and I've learned over time that it's needed to just all these things should will be taken care of, but just be mindful at times. And
Makes a lot of sense. I know, especially in the beginning, it is a little easier said than done because parents do feel guilty when they take time for themselves. How do we change that mindset that it's not something to feel guilty about? It's something that you need. And if you don't get this, your family suffers because of it.
yeah, I always go by that example, the oxygen mask example. It's such a wonderful example to make it more real, like as it's part of the safety procedure in the airplane. Like they use, you have to put on your mask first before you help others. If you cannot don't take care of yourself, you will always be frustrated, and you always be irritated by all the things that are going on. So you have to take that step. It's very tough, trust me. It took me years to understand, and I always I think ignored it too, because I think it's also part of upbringing, right? We're trained in a certain way where we also follow what I call a life's template.
Mm.
Like, the society has designed this template for us: go to school at a certain age, go to college, get married, have children, work, retire, and die one day. Like this is a standard template. If you waver from this template, so you are considered reckless. So specifically when it comes to guilt and parenting, there are again a lot of parameters already defined by the society. So if you waver from that, I mean, I know, like I had one friend who used to do fly out jobs, leaving her 3 month old baby, and I used to consider her reckless. At that time I used to judge her. Like, how can
Wow.
you leave? A child is so small. So I think it was my own mindset that was making me
Hmm.
believe that how is she doing? I mean, she was going for work, and then yeah, after work she used to just enjoy the country that was she was in, and posting some pictures. And I'm like, what kind of a mom she is? So I know how judgmental I was at that time. So I think it's just the society, the training that you receive, it, that has to change. And that's where when I went, for me it's all about therapy. Like when I took therapy, I just started uncovering these different areas, like, oh, I don't need to judge others, and I can take out time for myself too. So I think that's where the mindset shift happened for me. um,
Hmm.
I started taking care of myself, and I felt beautiful. I felt so peaceful. I'm like, yeah, I need to promote this to others too because this is worth
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. I think you're very right in saying that a lot of the time there's this judgment because people watch your life and have an expectation of you and expect you to meet that expectation. But then also, as you were speaking, I thought, but also culture plays a lot in it because of cultural norms. Like you watch mothers work themselves to the bone for their families and not take time for themselves. I think of, I mean, something as simple as pajamas. How often do you see a mom with decent pajamas? No, there's holes or they're wearing a t-shirt because the kids get the pajamas first. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like there is this conditioning from society and culture that says that you come last. And I do believe that there's this mindset shift that needs to happen, like you said, with therapy, with coaching, with um, these different tools that are available now. I feel like more parents do need to use that and understand that when you take care of you, not only are you able to better take care of your kids, but also you are modeling to your kids how to take care of themselves as well. And where better to learn, right? Because
Yeah.
if your kids don't see you looking after yourselves, how would they learn to look after themselves when they are adults? And so then the cycle like kind of perpetuates. That was just a thought that I had. But we were talking about not being able to take care of your family when you are running on empty. And so you're doing the bare minimum and you're giving the bare minimum. Let's talk about how parents' emotional states affect the energy of the home.
So it all depends, right? So if your own energies are low, if you're frustrated from within, then you only pass on negative vibes to the family. And then you, no matter, you might be spending a lot of money on fancy things and doing everything for your kids, the environment still stays negative. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's the energy that the vibes that go out, and then it results in, and unfortunately your spouse gets to have that, all that venting and that vomit, because you don't necessarily want to take it out on your kids. Sometimes it affects that as well. Like you are angry on something else. Maybe you're angry at yourself, but then you yell at your children for no reason. They might have done a small mistake, but then because you have so much within, that you'll yell at them very loudly, or you'll have a conflict with your spouse. So because you're holding on to it internally. And that's not good for the family as well. Like your child will be like, oh, mama, I just did this. Why are you so mad at me? And they will
Mm,
not understand either. And you still don't realize that why did I yell so much? So I think that's how it affects negatively in different various forms, where you don't realize that all you need is to maybe just craft out a little time for yourself. And then when you are filled with positivity, you have the patience with your family. So I love this phrase, respond and not react. So when you're
100%.
reacting, it's something bad that you're going to say. When you're reacting to a situation, it's something with no filter. You will say something wrong, be it your kids, be it your spouse, even your family members. But when you're responding, you're taking a pause, you're filtering out all the the dirt and then the junk that you don't need to say, and then it just comes out better, when you respond. And that shift happens when when you're not filled with all the frustration inside. If you're filled with frustration, it's only passing negative energy to your family, so it affects the family in a negative way. And then no matter how much money you have, no matter all you're getting all the promotions at your job, the negativity still stays there. So that's where the self-care piece is so important. That you might be thinking you have this much money in your account, but if you're not really taking care of yourself or taking time for with your family, it's just a number. It's not, money is just that number in your bank.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And you're talking about parents losing their cool with their children, and it all comes down to not regulating yourself, not taking time for yourself, not you know, doing that self-care piece and making sure that you are looking after you. So I'm going to ask you like a two-part question. So the first part of it is why? Why is it so difficult for parents to stay calm when their children are having big emotions? And then what role emotional awareness plays in breaking generational patterns? Because we yell because we were yelled at, right? Um, and we see it happening so often that kids get yelled at. I would love to hear your take on this.
Sorry, I missed the first question, and then I know the second question. I got
The
it. I
second one.
missed.
No problem. Why is it so difficult for parents to stay calm when their children are having these big emotions?
Ah, so it's yeah, it's many different things. I would say part where I'm actually presenting this presentation 2 days later. Connection. Again, this is a wonderful phrase as part of parenting therapy that my therapist mentioned to me. Connection over correction. I
I
love
say
that.
that all the time. I say it all the time. If you listen to my episodes, I say it all the time.
So I loved that phrase, but trust me, implementing that was the toughest part because I think we go in correction mode immediately. Like, stop doing this. Don't fold the clothes this way. You're holding the fork in the wrong way. You're holding the pencil wrong.
Hmm.
You are not doing this. Why can't you listen? I think we always go in correction mode, and that's why I think it's difficult. We don't even let the kids try and maybe fail and then learn. But we
Yep.
immediately go and correct them. And I think that's that's one of the reasons that we as parents must think that, and this is our right way, our correct way of our definition of correct. It might not necessarily be correct, but
Right.
that's where the patience, we lose the patience to even let them try. And we are like, no, this is the right way you need to do things. Like even writing letters, I know how much in the past I have yelled at my daughter when she was writing in like on a ruled book. She was taking 2 to 3 lines to write the letter A, and I'm like, why can't you just write it in that single line? That's how you're supposed to write. And she's a first grader. How can I expect her?
Mm,
It's okay. Let her write. She's at least writing the letters correctly. So,
right.
but we want the right way.
I actually had a thought the other day about what you're saying. And my thought is that parents sometimes do not see their children, as humans who are learning and having a human experience. I feel like parents view children as an extension of themselves, a representation of themselves, but as the representation or extension that needs to be perfect.
Hmm.
And that is so unfair on a little individual human that's just doing life for the first time, man. They just learning. They just learning how to deal with these big emotions and learning how to, like you said, hold a pencil properly, hold a fork properly, eat without spilling, you know. They're just learning. And so often we have these unfair expectations of them and then yell at them and call it discipline.
Exactly. I think you so true. And I think that part of it is also out of love that you want your kids to be perfect. As I mentioned earlier, perfect parenting, you're also trying to give shower them with everything possible and want them to be perfect. And both are wrong. Like you cannot
It's
have the
impossible.
perfect kid, you cannot be a perfect parent. You strive for
Perfect
that.
is impossible.
Yep, that word itself is a problem. Perfect. Uh, there's nothing in the world that's perfect.
100% agree. Do you think many parents underestimate how much their emotional regulation affects their children?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They probably don't realize how their emotions affect children in a negative way. Um, and part of it is also because most of the parents put on a mask. and hide their emotions. So on the mask, it only shows them the happy face. And so, and like we were talking about passing it on to the next generation, right? I think if we don't show our emotions, like I used to not, I was told not to cry in front of kids after my losses. It
Oh,
was only
wow.
my therapist who said, Shruti, why do you say that? It's okay to cry in front of your kids. What are your girls going to grow up with if you don't cry in front of them? They will feel like mama is this strong person who never cries. And they are going to be, when they get older and adults, they cannot cry because they saw me never cry. So that's what she's saying. You are passing on that to them as well, which you don't want, right?
Absolutely.
And so you need to be, it's okay to be vulnerable in front of kids. So I think hiding emotions, nobody says don't laugh, right? I mean, don't laugh with kids or don't
Same.
stop laughing. You laugh your heart out in front of kids, you have a lot of fun. But when it comes to the other emotions, especially crying and being vulnerable, is something you want to hide. And when you hide, it just fills you up, and then you're trying to pretend something that you really not are, because you're something else different. So it's like two personalities, and then you're not your real self, and then the child is confused.
I hear you say that parents mask emotions. I sometimes feel that because I'm very big on emotional intelligence and teaching in emotional intelligence, especially to the kiddos. But I sometimes feel like it's not even that parents mask their emotions, it's that they don't know their emotions. They don't know that they're sad. They don't know that they're grieving. Because, like you said, people are okay. So I don't like to call them negative and positive emotions. I call them red and blue because they are just emotions. The red ones are just a little harder to feel, and the blue ones come a little easier, right? And so if we look at the red emotions, like people don't even know how to name these emotions.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's so important that they do because a lot of the time they don't know that they're disappointed. They don't know that they're embarrassed or they're envious or they're jealous. And then what happens, that secondary emotion of anger comes out. So you have an angry parent or a happy parent, but there's no in between. There's no parent. Well, there's very few parents that says, I'm so disappointed, or I'm feeling so hurt, or I'm feeling so guilty. I should have done this, or, that can actually sit and feel and sit with those emotions. And so what I like about what you do is that you work with people experiencing grief and loss. So, how can grief or emotional pain, these red emotions, affect someone's ability to parent the way that they want to?
So those emotions, the emotions that I've been through as part of grief, I think initially, like I said, for 11 years, I didn't even address. So it was somewhere behind the scenes. I was trying to parent three children while grieving for the other three for the longest time. Parenting was hard because even though I was trying my best, I was still not able to forget, is what I was training myself. And I was just trying to live through whatever came my way, and not address whatever feelings. And it's when you mentioned about feelings, I know as part of one of the sessions, I don't remember which, I was asked this question: how do you feel right now? And I didn't have an answer. Like, I have no feeling right now. So I think that question, when you say that, we don't know. When we are happy, we are like, "Yeah, I'm happy right now." When we are maybe crying, yeah, I'm sad right now. But we have so many emotions at any point in our lives, but we don't know how to name them. So, because we have not been trained to name our emotions, like even now, if you tell me there will be some emotions going in my background, I can give you at least four to five different adjectives, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we are not trained in that way to define our emotions. And that was a good exercise for me to go through, like naming my emotions. And we were provided with a positive, like a red blue list just want to use your terms, a red list and a blue list of adjectives, and they're like, just go through that list and just take a few and name them down, what you're feeling right now. And that exercise really helped me kind of identify. So I think that's what is necessary to first identify what you're feeling, and have that connection within, and then, you know, um, you just become a better parent. In my experience, since I've started, like the last couple of years, I think I can say it for myself that since I've started addressing my emotions, even taking some baby steps towards um, just addressing how I feel, I'm much, much better as a parent. And of course, parenting is a work in progress. It's always learning, but it just makes
Always.
you a bit more patient on what they feel, and even listening to their emotions. Like when they have, like when, especially after school, when the kids come home, they have a rant. Like they have so much to talk about. I remember just ignoring and doing my own work, and I'm like, what do you really want? But from there to actually, I'll take a pause. Okay, the next 5 minutes are all yours, or in the next 10 minutes. Or if I'm busy with something like if I'm recording something, you know what, at this 12:30 p.m., I will come down and I'll listen to you. So I think that's what happens. That transition happens where you just know that, and the kid knows that their conversation is important and you are not dismissing the kids. So that's truly helped me with my own parenting, and and addressing the grief in a healthy way. And that's one of the
Absolutely.
reasons I highly, highly advocate. For me, it's therapy, but I know grief can be addressed in multiple ways. Some choose the spiritual way, some just choose to healing in just talking to somebody, or venting out in a diary. But there can be multiple different ways that you can choose to healing.
Yeah. What are some ways that parents can show themselves compassion when they make these mistakes? These parents who are navigating their own emotional challenges while raising children, these parents who feel terrible after they lose their temper with their kids. These moments happen so easily, they happen so quickly before you even think, right? They're these visceral reactions. So what are some practical ways that parents can show themselves compassion when these mistakes happen? Because they will happen. We are human and we're not striving for perfection here.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things. Once you define you're not perfect, I think all the things start to fall in place. So even if you do things differently, so one of the things I would like to share, like one of the exercises that I did is saying as simple as a sorry to a child. Like you will still make mistakes. Like I would say something, I will react and say something that 2 minutes later I'll feel I shouldn't have said that. So now what? I can't take it back. I can't go back 2 minutes and reverse anything. But what can I do now? I can go to my child and just say a sorry. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't have.
Mm.
And that makes it beautiful because the child then understanding it doesn't make you smaller. You're going to make mistakes more. You're still going to make mistakes. But for the child, it is very meaningful that, oh, it's okay, mama, that's fine. Or some, there have been times when my daughter's like, oh, really? I didn't even think about it. so,
Oh,
I,
wow.
so I'm like, okay, but I was overthinking too much what I said. So, and there are times where, yes, she was thinking about it and my sorry made a difference. So it can be either ways, but taking these simple steps, like just saying a sorry to the child, having that connection with the child, I think so important that it is meaningful. Um, some other practical ways are just having a parent-child date. And I know many people do that, just having that one-on-one child. So if you have multiple children, for me, 3 kids, I used to try to like, okay, all 3 kids, let's go to the mall. All 3 kids go. And then I'm primarily chasing the little one. And then kind of not ignoring, but I'm like, oh, the eldest one is all independent. The middle one, yeah, I have to pay attention, but I'm focused only on the little one because he will be running everywhere. And I realized it's a poor idea. It's not working. So I would, if there's a school holiday, like a student holiday, I'll take that day off and first, uh, have that free day for myself and have like throughout the day, morning with my eldest daughter, afternoon with my middle daughter, and then the evening with my son. Maybe as simple as taking him to the playground. He's happy with that. But
Yeah.
I think having that one-on-one connection actually gives them a chance to just be fully present with them, and they feel special that my mother is only with me. It's just me and her and
Yeah.
nobody else. So I think those are some of the practical ways to just have that bonding created. And then you cannot be a friend to your child. That I feel like, when some parents tell me I'm their best friend, in brackets, I say then you're not a good parent. You don't have to listen to your child for everything, because then you feel like you're being perfect, or you're just, your child is happy.
Yeah.
You're the only one as a parent who will discipline the child. So your child can never be happy all the time with you. There are some things you
Fair.
have to say no to. So you have to put your foot down, but then you always also remind them to be grateful that you're getting all these things, and teach them. I think gratitude is something extremely important, because um, I think sometimes kids don't even realize the privileges that they get, and it's really important to teach them gratitude. um, Not compare with others, but as simple as even taking them to homeless shelters, and doing something, volunteering with them. Those are other ways of even uh, making them understand. Sometimes it's like we verbally say, what, in Africa, people don't even get food to eat. Those types of analogies really don't make sense to them. They don't understand.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
doing something realistic and doing something physical, like taking them, like this person doesn't have a toothbrush and a toothpaste, that you are looking for a flavor toothbrush and an electrical toothbrush, and a toothpaste, and now here this person doesn't have a toothbrush at all and hasn't brushed for a week. So I think those practical things just start. Those are really it makes the child reflect better, and the bonding, parent child bonding, becomes really powerful.
From your perspective, how powerful is it when parents understand what's happening inside their child's brain and not just reacting to behaviors?
Mm, can you repeat the question? I'm just trying to think through.
So, from your perspective, how powerful or how important is it when parents understand what's happening inside their child's brain instead of just focusing on their behaviors?
Oh, it's so important. And the only immediate things come from me is the book Mindset. I don't know if you're familiar with this book, by Dr. Carol Dweck. It speaks about different types of mindsets, which is the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And I think our own, if parents can understand that their child is okay to make mistakes, they are okay, they don't have to be number one in everything, it just makes them better. It's okay to fail. And that's what the book actually speaks about. Like the fixed mindset is you have to be number one. And if you're not, the child themselves don't have confidence to even fail. Or if they are number two, then they feel like a failure. But the growth mindset is all about exploring and failing multiple times to strive, and then they're most successful, they're willing. So I think as parents, if we understand these two different mindsets, and then give an opportunity for children to just try certain things, to even try different subjects, and identify maybe their strengths. It might not necessarily be what I want them to be, but explore, maybe this person's really good at art, or
Mm.
like my middle daughter, she's excellent in in art. You give her a piece of paper, she can just create something out of it. And I'm like, she can create a crown or trash can, anything. And I'm like, you are something. so, so just understanding that and giving them an opportunity, I think it just makes it better for both.
I think so too. I think it also helps for parents to manage their expectations.
Hmm.
And I think it's so important for parents to learn the developmental milestones of a child's brain to understand what they are capable of, what they can expect for them realistically, right? And we were speaking about how parents see a behavior or maybe are dysregulated within themselves, and they think that yelling is just a discipline tool or a moment of frustration. But there's actually so much happening in a child's brain and nervous system during those moments. I'm actually hosting a free webinar where I walk parents through exactly what happens in a child's brain when they're yelled at and why those moments feel so overwhelming for them. Like understanding the science really helps parents respond differently. And like you're saying, like even seeing your child's interest, because so often parents will have an idea of what they want their child to be or what they want their child to do, but you're saying you give your daughter a piece of paper and she turns it into art, and that may not necessarily be the picture that you put in your brain for your child's life, right? So just that adaptability and being able to understand that this is a human, again, having this human experience, and they have their interests and they have what they want. I think it makes there's a lot of surrender that has to come from the parents' part, but with that surrender comes that connection that we speak about, right?
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up the episode, if there's one message you would want parents listening today to take away about self-care and emotional wellness, what would it be?
Wow. I would just, the title of this episode, it's my favorite phrase. Self-care is not being selfish. Um, for me, another most important phrase is mental health is equally important as physical health. So with our physical health, we we do everything possible. We completely ignore our mental health, but they are interdependent on each other. So take care of your mental health and address whatever you need to. That's extremely important. So that's what I'd like to leave with all the audience.
Amazing. Lastly, how do our listeners reach you?
Absolutely. So I'm mostly on all social media platforms. I'm on TikTok. I am on Instagram, Facebook. I create content around my niche, which is pregnancy loss, as a pregnancy loss coach. Also on LinkedIn. So I'll definitely share my accounts with you that you can share to your listeners. And also, my first call is complimentary, just to understand if I can help people with whatever they are going through. So I'll share my Calendly with them where they can book time with me, just have a chat, just talk through, vent out, whatever you want to speak about. Definitely, it's going to be a safe, non-judgmental space for sure. I can vouch for that. And that's just we can stay connected that way.
Amazing. Today's conversation is such a powerful reminder that parenting isn't just about managing our children's behavior, it's also about understanding how our own emotions, stress, and nervous systems come into play with parenting. When we begin to care for ourselves and become more aware of how we show up in those challenging moments, we create completely different environments for our children to grow and to thrive. And in turn, we grow and thrive. So, if today's episode resonated with you and you want to understand your child's behavior on a deeper level, as I said earlier, I'm hosting a free webinar on what actually happens in your child's brain when you yell. When parents understand the science behind those moments, it changes everything about how we respond. So, you can sign up in the link that I'll have in my show notes, and I will also be linking all the ways that you can get hold of Shruti to have a chat with her if what she does resonates with you as well. Thank you so much for being here, for doing the work, and for showing up for your children in new ways. And that's the parenting.
Thank you for tuning into the parenting. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, feedback, or